Hey guys, how's it going? We're back today. I've got an 05 Yukon Denali that I've got to take the transfer case out. The tail shaft bushing in the transfer case is shot and we need to replace it. So I am going to be removing it, and I'm going to make this as a two-part series. The first half is going to be the removal and the tear down. The second half is going to be the reassembly and the reinstallation. Right here, I'm just pulling the drive shafts out. It's 11 millimeter bolts that hold the saddles over the caps on the U-joints, and that is front and rear. The front drive shaft you can weasel out of there without needing to remove the exhaust. It is a tight fit. It does take some jimmying around with it, but it can be done. At the transfer case end of both drive shafts, it's just a slip joint. You do have to remove a clamp off the rubber boot on the front one, but if the transmission or transfer case has already been out once, chances are somebody just cut it and it's gone. So you just slide the rubber boot off. Fairly simple. Make sure you drain it, because when you drop the transfer case, you can't lower it straight down. You have to bring it down almost 90 degrees from where it mounts to get it out of the truck, and you will dump oil all over the place if you don't drain it first. Now, this particular vehicle is an all-wheel drive, so the transfer case only has one plug-in that connects to it and a vent tube. The only plug-in is for a speed sensor in the tail housing. There is no shift motor in this because it's just a single speed transfer case. So fairly simple in that respect. We don't have multiple plug-ins that we're messing with. And then just the one vent tube that's mounted kind of up on top. It's fairly easy to get to. There are 6 bolts that hold it to the extension housing on the transmission, and those are all 15 millimeter. You will need a 15 millimeter wrench or something. A stubby ratchet wrench works great on the top bolt. It's really difficult to get to. The bottom bolt you can get to with a ratchet and an extension going through the from the transmission side of the cross member back. But all in all, this really wasn't that difficult of a job getting it out of the truck. I think it took me a little under 30 minutes. So, granted, I've got it on a lift. Probably do this laying on the ground in an hour, give or take a little bit. Now, the plugs that are in the back of the transmission to drain it, or the transfer case, to drain it, are pipe plugs with a 3/8 square drive. So you can use a 3/8 ratchet to pull them out. Just make sure you clean them out very well and get the ratchet all the way in there so you don't round them out, because if you round them out in the transfer case, they're going to be almost impossible to get out. So I will leave you here and let you enjoy some music while I pull the rest of this out, and then I'll be back here in a minute. kind of getting set up, you can see where I've organized my parts that have came off. They're the saddles for the U-joints. And there's also a heat shield that came off the passenger side of the transmission that you do need to remove. You don't have to, but it makes it a lot easier to get your hands in to get the bolts that mount it to the transmission out. Now it's just some Torx headed bolts that actually hold the two halves of the transfer case together. I'm just buzzing them all out with my impact. Now if you watch, as I pull them out of the transfer case, I will lay them out in a specific order. I started at a specific hole, and I took them all out in an order and laid them out that way. That way, in case there were any of different lengths, or there was any difference in any of them, I could make sure they got back in the proper holes. They are all the same though, so it really doesn't matter. They can interchange. Now, once I split the case in half, you need to make sure when you do this, have the transfer case tail housing up when you split it, because if you have it tail housing down, your planetary gear set is going to fall out of the front of the case, and when that does, you're going to have shims everywhere. Be careful prying on it. It is an aluminum case. Now, here in just a second, you're going to see me removing the tail shaft. There's a snap ring in there, and I did inspect everything for wear. That way we could let the owner know if there were other repairs that were needed while we were in there. But anyway, there is basically it's a snap ring in there, but you have to slide a pair of pliers or something down into the ears on the snap ring like you're seeing me do here in just a second, and then you can actually expand it and you drive the shaft out of it, which I did with a drift, and it kind of got stuck in the lathe hole on the end of it because it had burr on it, but that wasn't a major ordeal. Go ahead and remove the sensor. There is a slim chance you might break it if the shaft bounces as it slides out, but you don't necessarily have to. There is nothing in there that's going to come in direct contact with it as you force the shaft out. Now, here in just a second, once I pull the seal out of the tail housing, we're going to come to the shocking realization that Borg Warner actually cast the bushing into the rear half of this transfer case. So the bad is, if you're in this situation, you do have to replace the rear half of that transfer case to replace the seal. It's not exactly cheap, and you can't find a used one. Now, you could send it to a machine shop, have it machined for the new bushing. They do make a replacement bushing, but there again, it's still going to be expensive. So guys, I hope you liked the video. Stay tuned for part 2. Please give me a thumbs up, like the video, and share it. And do me a favor, subscribe to my channel so you can see all the upcoming videos that I have planned. Have a nice day, guys.